All right, Dave, Paul, how are y'all doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on your show.
Doing great.
Absolutely, man. It's a
Thank
pleasure
God
to
it's
have you.
Friday.
Yeah, it's definitely been a Friday worth coming. It's been a long week,
Yes, it
very very
is.
long week.
Yeah.
So up here in the area I live in, we have had rain off and on this whole week. It's yeah, been crazy. So being able not to have to deal with it, drive in it, be able to sleep in tomorrow is going to be nice. So I'm glad it's Friday today.
Yeah.
Uh, for our listeners, we have got an exceptional guest for you today. I know that y'all typically hear Dave and I discuss people in the construction industry, talk about safety and things like this. But when Paul reached out and asked us to be a platform to tell his story, we couldn't say no. We had to get him on. So I think you're going to be extremely delighted to hear what he has to say and the lives that he lived, the lives, because in this one man's lifetime, it's essentially about eight normal human beings. So
Yeah.
so
And we're
so
going to sprinkle
welcome.
some safety questions in there too. So,
Oh yeah, I'm sure there's some hide and cover safety moments he could discuss with us. So for your listeners, let's get right to it. Paul, if you want to go ahead and just do a quick introduction and we'll get on with it.
Okay. Well, thanks. I'm not sure I have anything to do with safety once you hear the stories, but it'd be the farthest thing from safety. But maybe you could use me for a kind of
we'll
a
find something for you, Paul.
so say like one of those here's how not to do things for your safety. So,
That's,
but
yeah.
It's always a good segue.
to start off with, I actually my road to ruin started when I was 6 years old, 5 years old, when I made moonshine with my dad, and then when I was probably the next year or so, I started school in Chicago. So it was about that time I moved north, grew up in Chicago, but I came of age in California, which is when I hung out in '69, the summer with people you might have heard of, Santana and Garcia and Janis Joplin and Grace Slick and a number of
Who
them.
are they again? I don't think
Yeah,
I've heard.
yeah,
One hit
yeah.
wonders.
Yeah.
And at the end of that summer, I guess I somehow ended up in Woodstock. And there's an old saying about the '60s. If you remember the '60s, you weren't there, right? So because of the drugs and things. Um, but
Uh huh.
one thing I do remember though is I remember being 19, what it was like, and I remember being you know buzzed and psyched and pumped on adrenaline and all that sort of thing. And I remember being wet and dirty at the same time, if you could do that. But what I don't remember is another time like that. So it was a fascinating, wonderful experience to be at Woodstock. And so then I graduated. I don't know how. I majored in staying out of Vietnam. So that was another chore in itself, just to stay on that what they call it S2 deferment, or the college deferment. And so I got out of college. I spent a year working for a living, and I figured out, whoa, not this is not a good line of work for the rest of my life. I can't do this. So I joined
Yeah.
I joined the Peace Corps as a sort of being my Vietnam kind of thing, and they sent me down to a little place in Kentucky. I think it's Plainsville, Kentucky. It was on the Cumberland Plateau, maybe a stone's throw from West Virginia. Where the dinosaurs and all that stuff live. And after a couple of months of that, I said, "Geez, these guys aren't kidding." I was like, "I'm gonna have to do this now for 2 years," and so it came along. They gave me this. Well, you can go to Africa if you'd like, and I said, "Okay, maybe lions and tigers are better than dinosaurs." So I figured. So I got over there, and there was no civilizations in a place called Tanzania, which was a new country at the time, probably in the I don't know, 70s something. They became a new country, and so I and the rest of us were sort of digging latrines, and it was rainy season, of course, had to be, right? And I was like knee deep in some kind of animal excrement and mud, and I didn't know what the difference was, and digging these ditches, right? And so along came this guy who said, "Hey, I got a better option for you. You know, how about do something for us? You know," he says, I'll give you free reign of Europe, anywhere you want to go in Europe, except the Iron Curtain countries, you know. But at the time, and so I said, "Well, that's got to be better than this." So they sort of erased all my records with the Peace Corps, and then I was kind of like put into a situation where. Um, which was basically my role was to gather information and track terrorists in Europe, and the key was that when I verified information, I would turn it over to the professionals who did that sort of thing to resolve, and that I would assume would have to be the CIA at that time, and so but being young and stupid and not trained, you know, your plans don't always go the way they should. So I got involved a little bit too much in some of the tracking of terrorists, tracking of the terrorists, and it, you know, and took it to the end, you know, and so that was something that I'm sure they didn't like, but since I got results, they said okay, it was okay until they put a contract out on me themselves. So then I had not only the Russians chasing me, but the Americans too for a while. But that's another story. But but that's how I ended up tracking terrorists in Europe. Is it was kind of like hey, you know, if somebody's going to give me money to travel around Europe, I'm going to do it. But it turned out that that might have been like 10% of the time, and the 90% of the time was actually tracking the terrorists and verifying information and doing a lot of research in libraries, like with old things like your listeners might not remember, but it was called microfiche, and you could look and you could read thousands of newspapers a day, kind of thing, and just find out what you were looking for instead. So it was a good gimmick at the time before cell phones and internet and all that sort of thing came along. So that's the short story. I could go on talking for hours on that. Do you have any questions there?
Wow.
Yeah, actually, so you were talking about going over there. So when you were in the trenches digging up animal shit and whatever else, you said that it was unknown to you, and this guy in a slick suit came up and said, you know, I can offer you, your services would be better used in my department. And when y'all talked about that, you talked about training. From that point that you decided to put the shovel down to go with this guy to Europe, or, you know, the whatever entity it was with, they sent you to Europe. Did you get any training at all? How did you know to track terrorists and defend yourself? Like, this is some serious safety that you got to learn, or at least self-defense.
I had two things in my favor. I would say, well, one thing in my favor was that I wrestled all through high school and college for some ungodly reason, but so I kind of knew what to do. But wrestling was kind of like, here's how to do things fair. And I also grew up on the streets in Chicago, and I knew how to do things that were not fair, right? And that served me better. But they gave me about a month's training with a Marine Corps specialist, and you know, on how not to die, basically, and they would tell me, well, you know, we're looking for this kind of information, and don't do something stupid, but like going up to the terrorists and asking them and that sort of thing. So, but basically, there weren't all that many rules back then. Now today there are lots of rules, but back then it was sort of like a free reign, and they were still learning as much as I was still learning about how terrorism worked at the time. And speaking of terrorism, what the environment was at that time was that up until that time, the terrorists would usually shoot or kill, blow up, whatever, a political figure, right? And in the 50s, 60s, 70s, nobody really cared. Oh, man, dime a dozen, right? Politicians, you can just replace them with another one. And so they weren't getting the kind of notoriety and that they wanted. And so they were switching to what we know now is the killing of innocent people, basically. And that really tugs at the heartstrings of all human beings, basically, right? So it's like you can't kill kids and stuff like that. So that was really the kind of a new insight to them and to me, because of what was going on. But that's basically what the whole thing was about, was trying to understand these guys. And of course they weren't all the same. Europe didn't have a lock on all terrorists by any means, but that was the environment and the theater that I worked in there. So
Now, your family, did they ever ask any questions like why you spend so much time in Europe and what are you doing over there?
Definitely. Great question.
And I'm sure your whatever handlers probably said, don't tell anybody. It's a secret. You're almost like a Superman where he couldn't reveal his real identity.
In fact, to the day my mother died, she thought I worked for the CIA or NSA or somebody like that. Some three things like that, and I could not convince her otherwise. But so mothers, I guess, know these things, and I didn't say anything to any of them. I just said, "Oh, I'm having an extended trip," and they extended my time at the Peace Corps, sort of thing. And they put me in France digging ditches. I don't know what they're doing. So,
I'm moving this rock over here and then back over there. Yeah. Wow.
No.
So,
none of them really knew anything about it. So, and I didn't have all that many friends in college or high school, so there wasn't anything to tell them, kind of thing. They just kind of. After high school, you just go your separate ways, and after college, you go.
Yeah, I would think it would be kind of odd. I mean, did you ever pick up a paper, read it, and see something that you were involved, like you got the intelligence where the government actually stopped something, and you thought to yourself, "Man, I was a part of that, but I can't tell anybody."
Yeah. Occasionally, I would see things like that. And also they would pass me messages through the Herald Tribune, which is the English-speaking newspaper in Europe at the time. I don't even. They may still exist, but I'm not sure. But and you hear it once or twice, and it's like, oh, I don't care. They're giving me money, and I'm getting to see Europe and stuff.
Right.
Right. It's just, you're talking to a 23, 24, and 25-year-old kid, who just was there
money's
for the
money,
fun of it. So
right.
So I want to swing back to the beginning of your Peace Corps enlisting real quick, and especially growing up in Chicago. I've been on a little history kick here lately, like on Netflix. All I've been doing is watching, I think the category you can link into it is movies based on real life or something like that. And I've seen like The Best of Enemies, which that's an excellent movie. If you haven't seen it, go out there and watch it.
Yeah.
And then the one that relates to you is Chicago 7. This was a trial over 7 people, and I think the one guy that stands out is Thomas Hayden. And it was a huge protest against the Democratic Party at the time because of the Vietnam War.
Yeah,
Were you in Chicago during that time?
Oh yeah, that was 68.
Yeah. Did you know about that riot and protest?
I knew those guys. I knew Abby Hoffman and all those.
Abby,
guys.
Yeah, that's the other guy.
Yeah,
really.
I knew all those guys. And
you got to tell that story.
Jerry Rubin,
for sure. You got to give us.
And they were. It was a kind of a political thing because they weren't really all the major players. They were just the guys that happened to be there in the park, and they collected them up, and Bobby Seale was the 7th or 8th guy. I can't remember, but he
was the Black Panther member.
Yeah, he protested so much that they gave him a separate trial, but the other ones were just yeah, they had all antics. I mean, Rubin and Hoffman walked into court one day in Nazi uniforms. It's like, and they would always keep, and Hoffman especially would say all the time, he's like, and the judge is no relation, because his name was Hoffman, but I can't remember, Jules Hoffman or something like that. He always say, and no relation to this guy. So yeah, it was quite a time. Yeah, I was down in Grand Park
Wow.
with him.
So
Yeah.
that's funny you mentioned about the uniforms, because on the movie or on the documentary, whatever it would be described as, they didn't come in Nazi uniforms, but he came in a judge's robe.
Oh yeah, they did
Abby
that.
did.
Yeah.
And the judge was like, "What are you wearing?" He's like, "We're just to honor your honor."
Yeah.
And he said,
They, yeah.
"Take that off." So he takes it off, and he's got Chicago blue PD on underneath it with a big badge. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
during I don't know how true it is or how accurate, but the Netflix documentary or movie actually made Abby out to be like this just most comedic genius on the political side
Yeah.
of things. It was amazing.
I'm not sure he was that much of a genius, but they were smart guys. I mean, even Rennie Davis, and all these guys, all these guys that fought the establishment at the time, turned out in their real life to be something different. Rennie Davis ended up selling car insurance or some kind of insurance in Colorado, and Hayden, became a lawyer or something, right? Or maybe he already was a lawyer, but he was I can't remember that, but
No, it says he ended up running for council or something in California, was reelected like 6 times.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, okay, that's it.
So he ended up getting in the political party somehow, but in California.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I can't remember all those guys, but it was a fun time for sure. So,
Now, were you around? You said you were around the, like, 70s and stuff. The Weather Underground. Do you know anything about? Because I
yeah,
mean,
I
they
remember.
actually blew things up.
Yeah, I remember
You
them.
know,
I
like
was
police
not ever
stations and.
a part of them. Yeah, but
Oh, okay.
they were the the army that was serious about blowing people up and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and that was something that the IRA perfected during that time as well. Just blowing
Oh,
up
yeah, yeah,
pubs and things like that, and so and that's another story.
yeah.
I was in on all of that too as well. I mean, I was in England and Ireland
Now,
in 72,
now
73,
for our listeners,
74.
the IRA is something. It's the Irish
Yeah.
Republican Army,
something, right?
Irish Republican Army.
Yeah.
Republican Army. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they were actually yeah, it was a crazy time, because you didn't know who was on whose side. It was like sort of Vietnam, kind of thing. You don't know who's your friend and who's not, and what they did during
Yeah.
the day was completely different than what they did at night, sort of thing. So yeah, and I was
Mhm.
I mean, I can't tell you how many times I was just down the block or around the corner from explosions in that time, and amazing. Yeah, there's my first book starts out jumping right into the terrorism kind of a thing, and I was trying to basically save or warn the prime minister of Spain, whose name was Luis Carrero Blanco at the time. He was um, I don't know how much history you want to know, but Franco was dying at the time. This is 74 ish, and so he appointed this guy who was his friend through the whole Spanish Revolution and all that sort of thing in 1936 and that, and so he appointed him to be the the prime minister and potential successor of this, and so since the king and queen never abdicated the throne, Franco actually ruled under the premise that he was going to reinstall the king and queen of the king of Spain, right? And so this new guy came along, and he was like, well, how long are you going to wait, Franco? How long are you going to wait to do this, right? It's been 30, 40 years, right? So anyway, so the new guy, he said, he gave him a directive that yes, you will put the king and queen back in power, and so but apparently the guy didn't want to do that, and so. So the Basque population, which is in northeast of Spain, up there in by the mountains, and where France comes and they meet some stuff, and so they got blamed for this. But I can tell you what happened. That the this guy rode around in a Dodge Dart, for Pete's sake. I mean, you think, well, how can
Dodge Dart.
how can a prime minister do this, right? Well, part of it was because it was small and you could maneuver all the small streets in Madrid. But it also had 3,000 pounds of armor on it, right? I mean, so the bottom, the sides, everything was armored, right? So, so, I, so, so I was trying to warn this guy that he's going to get blown up, and I was running out down the street, and he crossed on the cross street in front of me, and we looked at each other, and I kept running, and I hear this explosion, and that explosion, I was just right around the corner. The only thing that saved me was the concrete basis of the building, but it's still the force threw me back over a row of cars into the street, and it's like I couldn't find the ground. I mean, I didn't know where I was for 20 minutes or so, but 15 minutes, and so I got up and finally and walked around the corner, and there's this huge big hole in the street, maybe I don't know, 45 feet across, 50 feet across, and what had happened, I learned later, is that they these guys, the guy actually was traveling. It was trailing. He had rented this basement apartment across the street on this thing, and he dug out the street and filled it with dynamite. and so when the guy came along and he's in the right place, they gave the signal and he blew up. And so since the car was so heavily armored, what happened was it took the whole car up over a 5-story church building into the courtyard on the next street. And wow. Yeah, if you look up Carrero Blanco, you see all of that. But yeah, but I was right around the corner from it, and so then I had to figure out what the hell happened to the car. Where did he go? What happened?
Took the whole thing up. Oh my gosh!
And of course, the police weren't there yet, so I had free reign of looking into the buildings and that sort of thing. But that's all in the books, kind of thing. But yeah, and I mean, I was down the block from pubs that blew up and in both Ireland and the UK.
It sounds like Prime Minister should have taken a little some knowledge off of the Italian Job and ditched the Dart and took a Mini Cooper.
There you go.
Right.
Oh my gosh!
Because the way Marky Mark drove that Mini Cooper, that thing could get around. So he might have had better luck passing that.
Yeah.
Detonation on a Mini Cooper.
He had a driver, but both of them.
Oh, he had a driver. Oh,
both of them were gone. Yeah.
Oh, so he had a shitty driver.
Yeah.
He's probably too much in a pub.
Yeah.
Oh my actually, gosh. He was just coming from church, right? Because it's with Spain.
Oh man,
everybody goes.
It just gets better.
Every day, right? Every day people go to church there. But yeah, I mean that was interesting. I mean, had those, and then after.
So let me ask you this. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead.
So I'm going to circle back to your terrorism life. What? So
well, clarify that he wasn't a terrorist.
He what? Thank you, Dave. Yeah,
I could have been right?
Doing the good side.
There you go.
Doing the good side.
He was a good
protecting us, like myself and Dave back in the day. We first of all, we do appreciate your services and
yes,
figuring out how to catch those little sacks or whatever they called them on. I mean, I'm talking to a real live Jack Ryan, so I'm just kind of stumbling over my words here. But going back to the days that you did that and you were listening interfering messages, stuff like that, trying to figure out what people are actually saying. Once you left that life and you started into your IBM career, then 9/11 happened. How did that actually make you feel? And did it almost make you say, call up an old connection and say, let me back in?
No, actually, that I didn't feel like that, except that my brother was working at the Pentagon that exact time, right? So he was involved, and I was worried about him being there, and it turned out that he was at Fort
Gotcha.
Belvoir, which is just down the road from there at the time. But no, I didn't. Yeah, I was. It was like, what the hell are we doing here? How does this happen? Sort of thing. And
Yeah.
I mean, there was no answer for it. There was no real understanding of it. But that's the kind of terrorism that is prevalent today. Is like, let's just kill a whole bunch of people, and by the way, we'll just be
Yeah.
martyrs. We'll be martyrs and take over from there. But at the time,
Right.
at the time when I was there, their terrorists weren't all from the Middle East or anything like that. But they were in it for the money, right? So they were funded by other people who sort of didn't want things to happen the way or they wanted to put in a position that you could be that would make them more money, right? So they were also giving these guys, and the first guy I tracked was a Frenchman. He turned out to be a Frenchman. So, and he was in it just for the money, basically. Um, but a real psycho, yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
So, were you given any kind of like language training? I mean, because you were in Spain, France. I mean, I'm sure they didn't speak English, for your benefit. So, did they
um,
put you through any kind of classes, courses?
they did not. So they just said, "Have at it."
Damn.
I
Oh, wow.
when you're immersed in a country like that where you hear the same things all the time that are not a language you speak, you sort of catch on to some of the stuff. So I had
Mhm.
so in France I had my girlfriend who was fluent in French, so I was okay there for most of the time when I was with her. Um, but otherwise, like when you're in Spain, no one spoke English, and it was like if you didn't understand what they were saying, they just say it louder, right? So it's, oh, wow, maybe you didn't hear me, so I'll just say it louder. So,
Oh,
so
oh, now, oh, yeah, I get it now. Yeah.
yeah.
That's what we do.
Oh,
I
why
was
didn't you
saying that's
say?
exactly what Americans do.
Why didn't you say so? So
Can
I,
you
I
understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
and so fortunately or unfortunately, I got pretty fluent in understanding Spanish. Um, in those days, though,
Okay.
they could the Europeans could tell an American just by their haircut, or something of that sort. It's like, oh, you're American, right? Or
Oh,
sometimes they'd say, oh, you're English, and I said no. I said, oh, American. That was my first guess, right? So it was always that kind of thing. But
no, Canadian. No.
yeah, right. I should have thought about
Wow.
that one. Yeah.
So, you mentioned a word that I wanted to. I got to work with this guy that was in the Army, and we started talking about Snowden, and then that conversation turned into 9/11, and he explained it very well, which made me understand a lot more than I did. But you brought up the word martyr, and I wanted to ask you, since you've understand that life a lot better than I do, what was the deal? So when bin Laden was caught and this happened, uh, they, instead of making him a martyr, they dumped him into the abyss. So they couldn't honor his body or build the statue or build the shrine or whatever, right? Can you explain that a little more detail as to why they opted to throw him into the abyss?
Well, I can just imagine, because back in my day there were very few suicide bombers, sort of thing. They were not looking to die with any of this. They were basically looking for money, or in one instance, it was to start a world war, and so with Snowden and the martyrdom stuff, I the Islam community, I guess, believes that when you die, you will have your place in heaven and have 72 virgins, and I would think that there's probably not enough virgins to go around for all these people who have killed themselves. So I don't know about that, but
and they never classify if it's man or woman either. So if you're a man and you get 72 male virgins and you're straight, you're pretty well screwed anyway.
Right.
So,
But yeah, but the martyrdom is but you have to have the body or pieces of the body, because when you get blown up, you don't have a whole body anymore. But they have to have pieces of the body to say, oh, this person is a martyr because they killed themselves for the cause, whatever that happens to be, and it's different for different groups in the world right now. But yeah, it's kind of it's a hard world to understand if you just look at one little thing. I mean, that's most of us do that. We look at a small detail of something instead of looking at the bigger picture kind of stuff. And with Snowden, I always thought, my personal opinion was that he thought he was doing the right thing, and he may have, because he gave out these secrets from the U.S., but he didn't see the bigger picture of how many people were going to die because of this information leak, right? So, don't get me wrong. I don't trust any politicians right now. They're all like in it for the money, basically. But excluding your wife there, David. If she runs, I'll vote for her. So.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's like no one actually looks at the big picture anymore, and that's why when I was in Europe, I got so good at disguises. I mean, you're talking about the old movie with the TV series with Clark Kent. You put on glasses and it's a whole different person. Nobody could ever know what he was. That's because people don't look at you, and because I wore glasses. I mean, I didn't wear glasses back then, but you put on glasses and it changes your whole personality and how people look at you. I mean, I could put a pebble in my shoe and have a limp, and then your gait is changed, sort of thing. It doesn't matter that you're wearing the same clothes.
Interesting.
Whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so I having really blonde hair at the time, I changed my hair color a lot with shoe polish and wetsuit shoe polish, and actually coffee grounds worked really well back in those days. You could just I went into the bathroom a couple
for
times.
a hair dye.
Yeah, coffee grounds, right? And not the kind you get out of the Keurig. but the real.
Well, they didn't have a Keurig. Well, they didn't have Keurigs back then, though, did they?
but most of the coffee, I don't know if you remember your parents, but when you pour coffee out, it had the grounds right in the bottom of it, right in the bottom of the cup.
Yeah.
Right? And so yeah, I could use that, and it would change the color slightly. It wasn't as good as shoe polish, because shoe polish did really a trick on it. But so anyway, yeah, I mean, I got really good at disguises, like old people and young people, and just change one little thing. Put your coat inside out. If you had a reversible jacket or something. I mean, that all. It was like nobody looked at you, right? And I pretty much think that they don't look at you nowadays. It's just like they've got their own got their own world, or they don't care about you, right? They have their own problems.
Right. They're too busy doing this.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't even know what's in front of them anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I really want to get to your books and promote your books for you and get the listeners to, because I got the Hollow Man coming and I can't wait to read that one. But before we get into your books, I want to go back more to your career. You traced one that ended up being a Frenchman. How many other terrorists were you able to intercept messages from, give to our government and stop them?
Oh, probably dozens, but they're not in the books
Oh
or anything
wow.
like that. But probably dozens. Little information here, little information there, and it gave them an opening into
Yeah.
something else and that sort of thing. But none of the people that I tracked to the end wanted to die. I mean, so they weren't in it to be a martyr or anything like that. They were in it for either political
Money
reasons,
and power.
ideology, or money. It's always about
Yeah.
money.
So there's no waterboarding them to get information.
Well, we didn't know about that, but
You
that
didn't,
might have come in
you
handy.
didn't have to
I
waterboard
was
them.
say, yeah, he was a different branch of that tree.
Right. Yeah. But
Yeah.
fortunately or unfortunately,
So
I could have used it a few times. So
so you started in your early 20s. When did you get out? When did they stop calling you? And you figured, okay, I'm done.
um, probably 3.5 years. I was probably 26 and a half, something like that. It was
Okay.
after the third book, and actually it's going to be in the fourth book, is where they I sort of overstepped my independence, let's say, and they kind of
Uh,
put a contract out on me. But it was to be
oh,
like a
yeah.
Uh-oh.
it was like to be a quiet contract. It's like just disappear. That's all. And so then I had
Wow.
so then I had
Gotcha.
the U.S. and the Russians and God knows who else looking for me, basically. So and I did have a little bit of help from the CIA during that time and stuff like that, because they liked me, because they thought I was funny or whatever. But they liked me, and it wasn't anything to them either way, sort of thing. So they sort of protected me a little bit, and if it wasn't for the people that I met and knew in those days, I would have definitely been dead. I mean, I have a scar on my palm here that is from a knife fight. It's I put my hand up a little bit too soon, and it's probably an inch and a half long now. It was longer than that when it was here, but when it was fresh. But yeah, that and the MI6 lady, she's killed, I don't know, 8, 10 people just to save my life, sort of thing. So there in itself.
So that's what I was waiting to ask about that, since you talked about people protecting you. I wanted to bring up, didn't you have a little lady love that protected you from time to time?
I did, yeah.
And if it's okay to tell our listeners who she was with.
Yeah. She MI6. Yeah, she was a foreign office agent, and also young,
Man.
and but better trained than I was, for sure.
Was it Katerina?
No.
Was her name Katerina?
I give her the name of Zita in the book, Zita, which means searcher in Greek. That actually is one of her middle names, with the confirmation or something like that. So she said it was okay to use that one, but not her real name, of course. But yeah.
Oh, you're still in touch with her?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
awesome!
I talk to her
Wow.
once every few months or so. Yeah, she lives in England.
Is she still in, or is she
No,
living
no,
a normal life now?
yeah, normal, quite a normal life.
Well, as normal as could be for y'all, but
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
So, but she'd have a harder time getting out of
in
it.
the States, or is she still across?
She's
Does she still
still
live
lives in
across the
England.
pond, or?
Yeah, about halfway between Gatwick and Brighton, which is on the southern coast, kind of thing. So down there, yeah. So, but yeah, she's a wonderful lady,
Interesting.
and very very protective. I would say that in those days. So it was good. It was a good thing. I met her when I inadvertently screwed up one of her missions that she was on. That I was that
Oh,
they had told me to follow the same guy, and they didn't know that the Brits were in on it too, and or they didn't care that the Brits were in on it. Maybe, I don't know, but they were following this guy, and I was following the guy, and it's like, yeah, that's another long story, but it was yeah, she saved my life many times. Yeah, she wouldn't give me a gun usually,
Wow.
because she was afraid to get between me and my gun and anybody else. She thought I would shoot her instead. But I was never a really good shot. But I
Oops,
did.
sorry.
Yeah, I did carry. I did carry a lot of guns, but and I shot them occasionally, but not around her.
Do you still shoot? Do you go to the gun range or anything like that? Just
To tell you
have fun, or
to tell you the truth, I have not lifted a gun since '76 or so. For almost 50 years.
Is that right?
Wow. So let me. It just got me thinking. You joined the Peace Corps. You came out of college because it was in Illinois. You went to the University of Illinois, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Come out of college, you got your first job and said this 8 to 5 shit ain't for me. So then you join the Peace Corps, and then you're digging a ditch and you get approached by another guy and you get out there. So your very first mission after getting, like you said, it was like 1 month of training with this Marine Corps guy. You did your first mission. What was the adrenaline like? And did you have to throw away your underwear after you got through a very first shootout or run through the Jason Bourne scenes? And so when all that calmed down, did you just lay in a beanbag and go, oh shit, that just really happened? Whoa. How was your very first, can you remember like your first mission or shootout?
But it was more like I did the holy shit thing after I was done with it all in 3 and 4 years.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit. It's like, nobody's going to believe this, so I better not tell anybody anyway. So, it was a crazy time. And I was just like, I wasn't going to live to be 30 anyways back in those days. If you lived to be 30, they turned you into Soylent Green, some food for the younger people, right? So, so that's what it was like. It's like, well, I had no respect for life. I didn't have any respect for death or anything. It was just something that I was there, and it's like, oh, okay, I'll do this, because it's a fun thing for a while, and then I'll do something else. It was just like that kind of it was just like I was just a regular guy, wasn't born to be a superhero or don't really think I was a superhero, but it was just something that you did, sort of thing. It's like, I'm always loyal to jobs, I stay around a job for way past where they're tired of me, right? So
yeah. You just overstayed your welcome and just keep going.
I sure did.
They got free coffee. Why leave, right?
Yeah, there you go.
That's right.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
So
I don't know. I think after my first shootout, I'd be kind of going, well, the digging ditches wasn't a bad idea.
This probably ain't for me.
I'm gonna trade this gun in for a shovel.
Well, I did think about that a lot during that time. That what the hell did I get myself into? But maybe digging ditches wasn't so bad. But if it had just stopped raining, that's all I was like. It's just if
it stopped raining. Call me when it stops raining. I'll be right there.
Can't you just do one thing at a time? Come on, God, can't you give me a break here? Just one thing at a time. So.
Or at least be an underwear modeled where you have to pay for them, because every time.
Exactly right. Yeah, I was
Pains for the loom. Hey, I need another 6-pack for this week.
I can't tell you why, but I'm going to need them.
Yeah. Just,
oh, gosh.
Can't y'all put stain-resistant shit in my underwear now? So.
I tell you, anybody that's listening right now that thinks that, man, my job really sucks. Maybe not. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Cars aren't being flipped and blown up and shootouts and, running for your life. Yeah, I don't think your job's that bad. But
here's a question. Yeah, to Dave's point about that, it made me think of this. Were you ever on the run for so long that you really couldn't go to public, or a disguise just wouldn't work at the time, and you had to really find a means of survival. And what was like the worst thing you ate to survive until you could get to like normal civil food?
He
Tarantulas
said he was in
overall.
Ireland, so that right there.
Yeah, I actually spent a couple of weeks with the Italian Special Forces in the woods in the mountains in northern Italy, and they taught me how to catch, cook, and eat tarantulas on an open fire. So that was the worst thing that I ate. I don't remember ever seeing one of those on a French menu either. So, but
No, no.
Well,
See that I could
yeah,
never
I don't know.
catch
The
one.
French eat some really crazy stuff, so
yeah.
that might be
But
next.
but being in a certain situation like that, I can tell you that in the third book, I actually have to break into Czechoslovakia, which is an Iron Curtain country. They're all trying to break out, and here I
Break into,
break
like
into.
everybody just wants to go there.
Right, and so, but it was because I was trying to save my girlfriend, you know, and who neither wanted nor needed my help, by the way. So,
And this is the MI6 girl,
yeah, yeah,
Vita. Okay,
she was attaché to the to the embassy in Prague, basically. So that's really my third book. But I didn't know a word of Czech. I didn't know a word of Russian at the time. So what I pretended to do, I mean, when I actually was when I was in one disguise, I pretended like I was deaf and dumb. I couldn't speak. I couldn't hear.
There you
So,
go.
wow,
Yeah.
so so I didn't have to say, I didn't have to return anything to anybody who was saying it. And
it's awesome. Dave would never even have to act.
You know, it's so funny because I was going to say the exact same thing. I would be a great spy because I'm deaf
and
and I'm dumb.
I had to wear a little I had to wear a little badge in Czech that said deaf and dumb don't bother. so so
Oh
Don't
wow,
bother.
yeah,
wow.
Wow.
but I got into that. It was
Just don't
actually
stub your toe and go, shit.
that's right. but
Just act like you got Tourette's. Just start throwing shit.
I can talk. I can hear.
it's a miracle.
The Robin Hood Prince of Thieves. The one guy that's blind runs white into the tree, and he's like, "Oh shit, I can see," and runs right back into it. Damn,
Yeah,
blind again.
I'm blind again.
So, Paul, we're definitely going to have to do a second session for you. We're coming up on
Oh,
our
yeah.
hour, and I really want to talk.
Okay.
So, besides turning tarantulas into octopelagics and doing all the other stuff that you've done, let's talk about your book. So, your books, you keep saying the second, third, and you're coming into a fourth. Are you writing your books as a series, or each one of them an individual novel?
They are individual, but they make more sense if you read them together. And so the first one is called
Okay.
the Hollow Man, because basically I had no guts. I had nothing inside of me, so I was hollow basically. I had no brains. I had no guts, no spine. I had nothing inside of me. And the second one is called London Bridge is falling down. London Bridge is falling down, and that's about the IRA, what they call the Troubles back in the early 70s. The English, the British were like, they don't want to embarrass or say anything bad to you, you know, so they turned these filthy IRA guys into the Troubles, right? They were just the Troubles, right? The IRA was having troubles, that's all. So they called it the Troubles back then. And so I basically for 6 or 7 months, 8 months maybe, I was all over England and Northern Ireland and Ireland and Dublin and stuff like that, and back to London and stuff. And that was a guy again. In the end, it was a guy after money, you know, so to destroy the economy basically of the UK. So. And then the third book is called Surviving Prague, which you can imagine that at the time I actually broke into Czechoslovakia from Germany, from Munich. I drove up from Munich through to this Czech station, basically, to checking IDs and stuff like that. Talked my way in, but it caused a whole bunch of gunfire after I got the car through and there. But so they realized what had happened, and they chased me for a long while, and and yeah, that's a whole nother story. So I get to get into Prague, and and Zita says, "What are you doing here? I don't need you." Well, I'm here now. So now you got another problem to worry about. So she,
Oh
and
my
actually
gosh.
she was wanted for murder in the old Czechoslovakia at the time. Now it's the Czech Republic, it's the Czech Republic. And she was wanted for murder, but that they had set her up for that, and so it was all getting her out of that twisted thing and getting her back to the West, and sort of thing. So
Wow.
and then the fourth book is going to be about the contract that the U.S. put on me, and a very specific contract anyway. But and then I still had to find out, something with casinos and banks and stuff like that. And then the Russians were of course looking for me too as well. And to this day, if I had used my real name in Spain, I would not be invited back. So that's another
Oh
story.
wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we
Well,
definitely have to have a part two, maybe three.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we could just do a book review,
Yeah.
because each book is
There you
essentially
go.
a part of your life that you've done, and we could just go forward and just
Yeah.
make every episode one book and do it as a series as well.
Wow.
Well, thank
It,
you, appreciate that.
so did you end up getting Zeta out?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
With both of
Or
and
us,
y'all
actually.
cooked
she got him
tarantulas.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I could
Would
say
y'all
it.
did y'all
Never.
roast tarantulas over a fire and show her your underwear contract? Yeah.
She had
That's awesome.
you
No,
you
but
could quit now. I have my underwear contract.
that's
yeah.
right.
So no, but honestly, that's awesome. So you got her out, and then y'all did y'all's thing. And how long did y'all actually date? Have a relationship, or
Yeah, for
was it more of a
3.5, 4 years, something like that. But maybe longer actually, because
no?
every time I with
Yeah.
IBM, I traveled a lot to Europe, and I would stop in and see her whenever I could. So and
Now
whenever
with her being MI6, how many languages does she speak?
fluently Spanish, German, not so much in Spain. She was really quiet in Spain, but yeah, at least those two. Maybe maybe Russian. I never saw her speak that or anything, but definitely French and German and Italian, which is pretty close to French. So.
She ever get mad at you and rip a language that you couldn't understand and just let you have it, and you just sit there and smile and
It's
wait for
like,
her to speak louder?
Yeah, yes and no. She got
especially in
mad at
French, because it all sounds cool anyway.
yeah.
Well,
She
French, speaking French, it's almost like they're hitting on you. It's like the sexiest language. Ooh, oui, oui,
Yeah,
jo poo poo.
that's right. Yeah, she'd be cussing you out, and you're like, "Oh, I love you too."
Yeah, you just start taking off your shirt. Okay.
yeah. Yeah, but she got mad at me, but didn't didn't use another language. He was quite well educated European English. Yeah, so
Wow. Well, Paul, it's been an honor, and
Yes,
again, thanks for your service, for what you've done back in the day, and over a dozen terrorists you
foiled.
basically turned over. Yeah, for sure. And can't wait to have you back, discuss your other books, talk more about your 18 lives. It's amazing.
maybe we
Super interesting.
maybe we can talk more about safety in the next one.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
hey,
Well,
hey, Paul, you were safe because you made it here.
you're here. You live past
So,
30.
so
Yeah,
yes, you live past 30,
I'm amazed
and
too.
so whatever you did, you were safe when you did it. Yeah.
So, uh, your current residence is in the East Coast area. Just so you know, I lived up there near where you're at now, over in the coastal side. So
Yeah,
so I know where you're. You got real pretty country up there. I like it.
well,
That's one of my.
I've been there, but I've never. But right now I live in Ohio, which is right up on Lake Erie in the country. So I've got um, lots of country people around here. Oh, and none of them seem to be less than like 85 years old either. So I don't
Oh,
know what it is.
see, it's quiet.
Yeah.
See, after 6 p.m., it's quiet.
Right? Yeah, that's right.
So didn't you spend some time in Mentor?
And well, I've spent some time on the East Coast. I worked in every state in the country, including Alaska and Hawaii, for IBM, and then did probably spent a total of 10 years overseas with them as well in 55, 60 countries, something like that. Everything
Yeah.
from South, southern Canada to, and you know what, the two hardest countries it is for an American to get into, you won't believe this: Canada and the UK. They ask you so
Really?
many questions. Where are you gonna? How long are you staying? Where are you gonna be? What are you doing? Are you working? Are you not working? It's like, well, give us your hotel thing. How long are you gonna be staying there? Are you going anywhere
Oh,
else? It's like, oh my God, give me a break, So, but anyway, yeah. I mean, I got into Kuala Lumpur, with a with a bag of drugs. He's like, it was. I didn't have drugs, but I could have, because it was just like, yeah, come on through. Who cares? Come on through the customs,
Oh
man.
wow.
I
So,
would say
yeah,
for Canada and England, Americans have, a reputation of taking over a country. So, I don't blame
Yeah.
them. We
it could
land,
be
we're
that.
like, yeah, this is ours now.
It could be that. Yeah, yeah. And you know what? We're not as universally loved overseas as we used to be. So
Yeah, I know. Now, to George Carlin's little comedy skit, remember, if your country's black brown, we're blowing you the F up. He was such, he was so
Oh,
funny, man.
yeah,
oh
he's a great
gosh.
guy.
George Carlin.
Mm.
So, quick question, and then we'll probably wrap it up to respect your time. Don't want to take much more, but we'd love to have you back. Out of the 55 or so countries that you've been in, all the states, and every place that you've been able to work and actually settle and live, where would you prefer to retire?
Don't say Texas.
Southern coast of France, probably Riviera. I had
Southern coast of France. Okay.
I had the most fun down there, and it was yeah, it's a great place. I
Wow.
mean, full of you were either like filthy rich or just a regular person, sort of thing. There was no in between or anything like that. You're just all filthy rich, and and as an example, in Cannes, they have all the film festivals over there, and movie stars would come in, but not just movie stars. It was like uh, sheiks, Arabs would hang out there that are worth billions of dollars, and they just be walking around like normal people, kind of stuff. So I don't know if they'd say anything to you, but they were, just no. But I liked it down there.
What was the temperature like year round? Did it ever get cold, hot, or is it like one of
Uh,
those
not
high of 85, low of 60s?
Yeah, it was. I don't even remember many days of 85. It was probably 70s most of the time, 60s at night, sort of thing. And when your blood thins out, you got to wear a coat, when it's 65, right? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, but yeah, I don't remember any really really hot days. It was in January, February. It would be probably 14 degrees Celsius, which is probably 70, 65, something like that. So in the daytime, so it wasn't really bad.
Awesome,
It's
man.
it's
Well,
fun.
this has been a very educational, fun, laughed a lot. I really love this, Paul. So I do appreciate you giving us your time
My pleasure.
and jumping on board with us.
Yeah,
Thanks,
next time
thanks for
we'll have
having
to
me,
go
you
from
guys.
the transition from that to IBM and how you got into
Okay.
that. And
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
Yeah,
Because with the IBM job, let's see, in a sense, you kind of started the CCTV industry. Y'all were the ones that came up with real time live video, the very first before it really got big, right?
yeah,
Weren't you
yeah,
part of that?
yeah. I was actually the CCTV kind of thing has been around in black and white since the '60s or so, but just in 2000, 2005, something like that, we actually invented the where a system where generally CCTV or video is kind of like an after the fact. It's like, oh shit, this guy stole from me. Now I can't do anything about it, right? So what we did was we actually made it interactive so that when let's take an easy example, like when you're in a store and you pick up a box, right? You're going to buy it at the front, and so the video actually tied that product to that person until they either set it down or paid for it. If they didn't do either one of those things, they stole it, and so you can stop them at the door. Right. So it's all like right now things that are happening right now, so that you can basically stop crime before it actually happens, that kind of thing, or as it is happening, I should say. And yeah, I was in charge of the worldwide video surveillance for a number of years, and that was fun. Yeah,
Wow.
Oh,
all good stuff.
So cool.
yeah. Oh, God.
Well, whenever Corey gets his shit together.
All
There
right,
we go. Hey, welcome back.
Mayor. Yeah, I'm back. Y'all miss me? Hi.
Yeah.
That's, okay, so welcome, listeners. We got Paul Hollis on.
Yeah.
We're going to no.
Show's over, Corey. I'm sorry, bud.
Oh
Everybody's
my God.
gone. Everybody's gone. You missed it. You missed the whole thing.
All right. Well, Paul, I really do appreciate it. Please stay in touch. And
Yes.
like I said, the Hollow Man's coming. I can't wait to read it.
Great, appreciate it. Yeah,
I'm going to get the other ones too. And let's do this again.
anytime, guys.
Now, real
Let me know.
quick. Speaking about your books, where can people find your books?
They're all over Amazon.
Okay.
And you can find them on my website, which is thehollowmanseries.com. All one word, of course. But yeah, you can find them there. I've got a huge presence on Twitter. You can find me there. I have about 100,000 followers there. Facebook, I'm easy to find. LinkedIn, wherever you're looking, just type my name in and you'll find me somewhere. But yeah, but that's me. But the books
Excellent.
are all on Amazon. Easy to get, easy to fetch. You get either paperback or the ebook. Sorry, those are all good there.
Okay.
Now your books on Amazon and everywhere that they can buy. Can you apply discounts or anything? Is there anybody for our listeners that listen to this podcast and want to buy one of your books? Is there anything we could do for them?
Yeah.
10% off, 15 or something? You got anything like that?
Actually, you know what you could do is just email me and give me your email address, and then I will give you a free copy of the first book.
Wow, there you
How
go.
about that?
Can't beat
There
that.
you go, listeners. And in our show notes, we will put Mr. Hollis's email in for you. Email him, tell him you want a free book. You heard it from Standards of Safety, and
First one's free. You got to.
first one's free. You can't beat that. That is amazing. Yeah. That is awesome.
Yeah, and then the other two and the other one that's coming up, you got to pay for. Stop being cheap.
Yeah, quit being greedy. You get the first one free. The first one,
my gosh. It's a teaser, is what it is.
It's a teaser. It's what we call it.
You read that, and you have to get the other ones.
Yeah.
Right.
So, awesome. Well, Paul, again, not going to take up any more of your time. We do appreciate you giving us some of your stories, and we can't wait to have you back for the continuation of it.
Yeah, anytime.
It's been amazing.
Thanks
been
for
awesome.
having me, Corey and Dave. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Thank you again. All right.
All right.
Everybody out
Have a
there,
good weekend, Paul.
Thank you. You guys too.
everybody be safe.
All right. Bye-bye.